Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another episode of Be It TV. We're not on the TV this time, we're on the audio. But I'm back again with my great friend, one of my closest friends, Terrence Gordon. He's come back for more. And me and Terrence are actually doing a series about masculinity, okay, and looking at different facets of masculinity. So in our previous episode, we looked at fatherhood, right? The sort of the farthest generation, that crisis. And today we're going to speak about a very universal topic, I think a lot of people can relate to, even women, right? Where we'll look at what does it mean to be a man? What is a man, right? And what is masculinity, right? Are you still a man? Are you still a boy? We'll also touch on masculinity in the Black community, the influence that women have on masculinity in the world now, toxic masculinity, emotions, different aspects that need to be discussed to sort of address and help anyone out there who may be struggling with coming to terms with whether they're a man or not, right? Because I think that's a very, that's a lot of things, that's something that men, boys who are transitioning into manhood struggle with in terms of being secure in that identity sometimes, because it's very stereotypical. It's not very clear cut, I don't think. And I think pop culture, society, the media, again, I think women even, we'll touch on that a lot more in the podcast, have had a big factor in what it means to be a man. And I just want me and Terrence to go back and forth. I think Terrence is a great example of a man. I hope I am too. I believe I am.
Of course.
And it's just for us to go back and forth and discuss that and look at the niches within what a man is. So again, women's influence, influencing culture, Black people. Is that different? Is there a difference between a Black man and a white man, for example? But what does it mean to actually be a man? That's the crux of what we'll discuss. But I'll let Terrence say hi. I know Terrence has been eager to come back. Terrence is happy to speak to you guys. I'll let Terrence say hi, and then we'll go straight into the podcast.
Yeah, so hello. Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's Terrence back again, like Wellington said. Part 2. Let's go.
Let's go.
Man, that's it.
Let's get it. Okay, amazing. So, Terrence, I want to start off by looking at what do you think marks the moment when a boy becomes a man? Do you think it's an experience? Is it a realization? Something else? Do you believe there's a clear transition point from boyhood to manhood, or is it more of a gradual process? Like, what do you think that whole what makes a boy become a man? What is that transition period? What is that like? What is it like for you? But just generally speaking, what's your opinion on that?
First of all, I'd say in order to become a man, you got to go through like a major experience. So for myself, I've been through a lot of things, a lot of different things in my life that's kind of shaped the person that I've become. So I think the most important thing for me, I'd probably say, was losing my dad.
Wow.
So I was 8 or 9 years old when my dad passed away. And that was a moment when I knew that, my life's never going to be the same again, moving forward from this moment. And then I went through a lot of things after that happened, in regards to like my mental health and things like that, getting in fights at school, things like this. So yeah, things started to change for me from that moment moving forward.
Right.
And then I say another thing that played a key role in myself was when I originally split up with my son's mum. So I think sometimes you have to get your heart broken in regards to, like, if you are in a relationship, sometimes it takes things like that.
Yeah.
In order for you to really like become a man. And then after that moment, you realize to yourself, you know what? I'm on my own now. And then you start doing things your own way.
Independence. That's a big thing.
Because you know for a fact that, you can no longer really, not to say you depend on someone you're in a relationship, but you got to just do things by yourself now. So you got to be a lot more focused.
Yeah.
Pay a lot more attention to the finer details of things that's going on in your life.
What does I think that's a great point, because I like what you're mentioning about your experience, right? Obviously, you had a difficult breakup. I mean, breaking up with your child's mother. In the perfect scenario, of course, we want to be with, or you'd like to be with your child's mom. You don't want to, obviously break up or go through that separation process. So to go through that sort of tough experience, obviously would have shaped you immensely, right? In terms of the man you became. And I think what I also liked what you're saying was independence, because I think that's a very that can be very gender specific, because they a lot of people say men need to be independent. They need to be, looking after themselves. They can't live with their parents. They got to move out of the house. So sometimes a lot of people, when you move out, that's like, oh, that now you're a man. Now you're taking care of yourself. You get a job. My opinion, I do believe, right, that part of manhood is definitely getting a job. Like, it's definitely being like, okay, you know what? I'm going to start working. I think that is a big part of being a man is the ability to work.
Definitely,
right?
I agree.
And it's one thing to not have a job and you're trying, right? It's one thing just not want to work. And I think when you don't want to work, of course, when I was a little kid, we don't want to work. We want to play video games, right? It's like,
Yeah, of course.
that was life, right? But I think that manhood mindset is like, listen, I need to work. I need to provide for myself. I need to build something. I need to create something. Because men, we create, we make things happen, right? And you can't do that if you don't have a job, right? It's like you can't do anything without money, right? So
crucial.
it's important to be able to be like, you know what? Let me develop the skills. Let me develop the ability. Let me sort of improve myself to the point where I can get a job that can give me this kind of lifestyle. If I don't have that job, what do I need to do? That's more of a mindset, and then the action. That sort of, I think, is a big transition point between being a boy and being a man, right? So obviously a man doesn't want to work. And I think with the independence, what you're talking about, again, even little things like being able to cook, right? Being able to look after yourself, right, is an important part of, listen, being a man. I think, funny I talk about cooking, because that could be looked at as, it's just women who cook, right, and clean. But I think it's important for men to be able to show a level of self-care for themselves and then other people, right? That's part of maturity in a way where, like, I know how to cook, I know how to clean. And if you don't know, you just learn, learn how to do it. If you make mistakes, just learn. But it's more that mindset. You don't have to turn to a chef, right? Like a master chef, but it's more so, listen, I'm going to start doing this for myself. That I believe makes you a man. You can even speak about the physical things, right? In terms of, again, because people would say, okay, are you a man at a certain age? Puberty, right? Are you a man when you start growing a beard? Are you a man when you get muscles, right? These are all things that I think people start to associate with, okay, that boy is a man. He looks like a man now, right? Physically. What do you think about that? Because obviously, I think that's an interesting one where, okay, if you're not hitting the gym, you're not a man, or are you a man? If you're not, if you don't physically maybe look more like a man, does that mean you're not a man yet, or you're still a kid? And I think psychologically that does that I've seen it play a factor in some men, right? Where it's like, oh, I don't look a certain age, or I don't have a beard yet, I don't have muscles, so I don't, I'm not a man yet, and they feel they have to maybe obtain those physical attributes in order to feel in themselves like I'm a man, to feel secure in their manhood or their masculinity. And I think I'll touch on that with the women part of it, because I think a lot of women maybe look at that sometimes as, okay, he looks like a man, right? So what do you think about that? Anyway, physical appearance, physical change. Do you think there's an age, like 18, 21? Because that's a big thing too. Because obviously I know my dad told me when you turn, my dad told me, you're 19, you're not a kid anymore, you're a man now, right? And obviously a lot of people say 19, that's still a kid, right? But I was told that you're a man, right?
I agree with that.
So anyway, generally speaking, physical appearance, right? You hit the gym, you're you're in good shape. For you, was that a part of your transformation? Did that give you a sense of, okay, I feel like a man? And just generally, Terrence, just in general, what role does physical appearance play in becoming a man, turning from a boy to a man?
Yeah, so first of all, I'd say physical appearance is very important. Obviously, genetics plays a role to a certain extent. I'll give you an example. So I remember when I was in school, probably between the ages of like 13, 15, I had no facial hair whatsoever. That's probably mainly down to my genetics.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not really something that I'm in control of. But there was other people, full beards already,
Yep.
15 years old, you got a full beard,
Yeah, I've seen that too, bro. I was
looking
like, oh,
like
man.
a man.
Yeah.
But what I would say in regards to that is having a beard doesn't necessarily make you a man.
Yep.
Especially when you're 15 years old, it really doesn't really mean much at that age.
Yeah, yeah.
It's mainly down to your genetics.
100%.
But when you get older and you start shaping up your beard and you're looking after it more, that's what kind of makes you a man, like in regards to that aspect of it. But if we take it back to the gym now, as you know, Wellington, I'm a personal trainer.
Of course.
I'm a boxercise instructor.
Mm-hmm.
I've been going to the gym since I was about 13.
Yeah, it's your life. It's your
That's
lifestyle.
my life,
Yeah.
and it's remained consistent throughout my whole life from 13. Now I'm 32 years old. So what's that? We're talking like 20 years more or less.
Yeah.
I've been active, football, gym. Now it's mainly boxing for myself that I do. A lot of boxing training every week.
Yeah.
I'm in the gym. So in regard to the gym, it's very important, I'd say. And I'd say if you're a man and you're listening to this right now and you're not going to the gym, you need to start going to the gym.
Why is going to the gym important? Oh, not even gym. Maybe because some people time schedules and stuff. They can't go to the gym every day. But obviously, maybe physical push-ups, weights. Why is that important in becoming a man?
That's what I was gonna say next. Let me rewind. Go back to what you said. Don't necessarily have to go to the gym, but you need to be active, doing something. Whether that's walking,
Yep.
going for a run,
Yep.
like you said, Wellington, push-ups, free weight exercises, body weight exercises, whatever it is. You don't necessarily have to be in your gym, but what you need to be doing, you need to be active in some way, shape, or form. And I'll tell you the reason why. Not just physically, but what it's going to do for your mindset.
Mental
for your
toughness.
mental health,
Yeah.
for your mental toughness.
Yep.
It's going to help to develop that. And this is something that's very crucial, especially if you're a dad, or if you are in a relationship. You're meant to be the leader. You're meant to be a role model for your partner.
Yep.
And also for your child. And even if you haven't, just do it for yourself, and you will reap the benefits. You understand the importance of it.
Do you feel so? Obviously, that's an important point where you're saying push-ups, weightlifting, going to work, maybe doing a physical job, like I don't know, something physical. Getting some weights, some dumbbells at home, lifting those. Just making that part of your routine. And I like what you're saying about the mind and the body and the mind. And I think what you've touched on is a strength, right? So you believe men should have strength, physical strength, or try to be physically strong. And that would equate to mental toughness, which is needed to, for example, raise a family, to be in a relationship, to get through the struggles of life.
Yeah.
You know
what I'd say? I'd say
do you think that's important?
I'd say don't even try. I'd say make sure you do it.
Yeah.
Make sure it's I can't even stress the importance of it enough. It's very important. Gym, making sure you go to the gym, looking after your physical appearance on the outside as well. So I'm talking your face as well. Your beard,
Self-care,
your haircut.
Yep.
Even like skincare routine.
Yeah.
A lot of guys probably think that's not important, but these are the things that other people see. Remember, first impressions count. And if someone's just looking at you from the outside and they haven't spoke to you, what else are they gonna see? They're only gonna see your outer appearance. So that's why it's very important. Before you even speak to someone, people judge you based on your appearance before you even speak to them.
Yeah.
Whether people realize it or not, that's just a fact.
That's just life. Yeah, we're physical, especially men just look on the outside, right? And then just
be like,
so
imagine me, I'm a personal trainer, right? So imagine if I show up to work and I'm out of shape. I'm 400 or 500 pounds.
Yeah.
And I'm telling people, do this, do that. This is what you need to look like. This is what you need to do. Need to take care of your nutrition.
It's hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a, you know, people look at me like I'm a hypocrite. They're not going to take me seriously.
Yeah, of course.
So this is the reason why I'm saying that it's so important.
That's really powerful because I think what I liked you're hitting on is physical strength. I'll give you my opinion too, whereas I think that men should be, again, I'm not saying you need to be like like some on steroids, like some like The Rock, right? I'm not saying that.
Yeah, you don't need to be a bodybuilder.
but it's more just being able to, you're physically able to, there's that level of physical ability, right? Because again, another big point is with men is the ability to protect your family, to protect your household, to protect yourself. Because a little boy can't do that, right? A little kid, 3-year-old boy can't, needs protection. So I think part of that evolution is okay, and protection isn't just physical, right? That could be even mental, sort of emotional protection. Being able to, for example, you're in a relationship, your girlfriend's breaking down. You need to know how to sort of protect her from further harm emotionally, right? If you're a person of faith, spiritually, being able to step in and be like, listen, this is what you need to prevent further spiritual harm, right? Your children, yeah, same thing. Your children need protection. And I think part of that does come from, because to be able to protect it, you need a level of confidence, right? You were mentioning earlier about strength being mental, and that leads to what? Confidence. And I think confidence is a big thing. Confidence, not in the sense of you're arrogant, but you're humble, but you're sure of who you are. That's what confidence is. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast, is because I think there's a lot of men who just aren't sure of who they are, right? And that's why you're seeing now a lot of a big crisis in the world with transgenderism, with people not knowing their sexuality and all this stuff, is because they're not comfortable in their skin. It's like, I'm a man, but I feel like a woman, so I'm going to become a woman now, and vice versa. Women don't feel feminine, so they want to be men, and people are changing their genders now at an increased rate. It's normal now to see a transgender person, right? Because it's just like, man, like, that's why it's happening. So I think a big part of it is just knowing, okay, to be a man. I think men who don't feel strong physically, emotionally, mentally, it leads to, considering, oh, should I be gay, or should I be, a woman, and that's where a big part of it comes from. So to make it clear to people, like, yes, you do need strength to be a man. And I think again, we're going to touch on that now in terms of what is toxic masculinity, right? Because I think that ties in very well to that, in the sense of, okay, because we're here telling you, okay, be a man, you got to be strong. You need to be strong, right? You've got to be a rock in a way. And now there's another term, which is a big thing in the world, which is called toxic masculinity. And that teaches us to do what? To suppress our emotions, right? Only show anger and dominance, right? And that's a big thing now, where I'm going to touch on the emotional side of being a man, because men, we like respect, right? We feel loved or feel valued when we get respect. What hurts men? Disrespect, right? It makes us go crazy. So a big thing, I think, of masculinity is it's men seeking validation in the form of respect from other people in order to respect themselves and feel confident in who they are. And I think a big part of that is now emotions, right? Because you have men who are struggling with their temper. You have men who are getting angry constantly. You have men who are, not crying, maybe suppressing emotions, right? Saying, listen, I have no emotion, therefore I'm strong. And I believe that's a problem, because you have emotions for a reason. I believe showing your emotions doesn't lessen your masculinity. And part of being a man, again, is that confidence to be able to say, listen, I feel this way, so I'm going to show it. Having that, in a way, that is boldness, to be like, I feel like this, I want to show you. And what is the cowardice? Is not showing that, right? So it's almost like the lie is, okay, even from when you're boys, hey, big boys don't cry. It's almost like it's something that we're taught from when we're a little kid, right? Oh, crying is weak. So then you have a lot of men now who internally are bottling up a lot of stuff, but they're letting it out via what? Beating up their partner, beating up their kids, joining gangs, murder. You've seen all of it, right? It all stems from a internal conflict, and eventually you have to let it out. But if you don't know how to deal with it, right, and confront those emotions, again, men should be able to confront, it blows up in negative ways, right? So I don't know. What do you think, Terrence, about just generally about this, the whole notion of toxic masculinity? What is that? When is masculinity intoxicated to you? When does it become okay? That's toxic. And I think it's important because we've told men now, me and you, hey, go to the gym, exercise. And some people might say, oh, you're being a bit, why should I go to the gym? I've heard that before. Yeah, a lot of men don't believe in that. A lot of men don't believe in physical strength even. And even us saying that might come across as a toxic masculinity. I don't believe it is. And I'm sure you don't either. So let's make that clear. What is toxic masculinity? And how has this affected how men are expected to transition into adulthood? How boys are expected to transition into manhood? What do you think?
First of all, I'd say this word toxic masculinity, that this whole term is kind of open to interpretation, really. Because a lot of things that other people would think is toxic masculinity, I wouldn't personally agree with. So I'll tell you what I think.
Such as?
So, for example, for me, I would say, go back to what I said earlier. I would say it's definitely important to be in the gym. That's the number one thing that's important, I would say. And you got to make sure you take care of your physical appearance on the outside. So how your face looks, how your skin looks, your body, your hair, all of this stuff's important. And also, I would say, you need to be in control of your mental health and your mindset. For me, that's the most important one out of all of them.
Yeah.
So you need to have self-control over yourself.
Yep.
If you go back to what you were saying earlier, in regards to like beating your partner, your wife, your fiance, your kids, things like that cannot be done. That's not what a man is, and that's not what a man should ever. You should never even have that in your mind to do such things, because that's completely wrong. It's your responsibility to be there for them, and like you said earlier, to protect them. So if they can't rely on you to protect them, to me that shows that you're not really a man.
Yep.
You need to not only protect them physically, but also mentally as well,
emotionally,
so
spiritually,
everything into one. So for example, if your wife's breaking down in tears and she's looking for that leader, and you're just sitting there in the room and you're like in the corner over there, and she's crying, what's she going to be thinking of you? She's going to lose respect for you, right?
Exactly. Respect is earned, not given.
Respect is earned, not given. So you got to, that's the most important thing that you just said right there. You got to earn people's respect.
Yep.
Men have to earn respect.
Yeah, it's not given. I think that's a big problem.
And that's the big difference for me personally between men and women. Women don't really have to earn anyone's respect, and neither the children. From the moment they're born, from the moment a child is born,
they're loved. Yeah, they're loved.
They're loved straight away.
Yeah.
By everyone who's in that room, they're gonna look at that child and think, "Wow,
innocence, pure." Same with I think women have that too, where they're but again, women are not wired. Women just want love, not respect. It's not the same. I think they do want respect, but it's not critical to their like identity. It's more like, am I loved? Am I getting attention? Am I getting this sort of emotion? It's more emotionally based. But
definitely
with us men, it's more like, I want respect. But again, what you're saying, bro, is that respect is earned.
Respect has to
be earned. And I think that's a big thing, because you can't walk around saying, "Oh, I want people to respect me," but then it's like, what have you done to? Because the word respect is actually defined as having qualities or attributes which are highly, I believe it's highly achievements, even sort of having things about you that people admire and aspire to have themselves, right? So, for example, self-control. If a man sees you, wow, that guy, his wife said this to him and he was still calm. Like wow, how did he do that? That's inspiring. Right? Like I need to learn. It's like you almost, and that's leading, right? Leading is doing something and calling other people to do that, right? So, yeah, I agree with you on that. I think it's a big thing with today is just, again, you have to earn that respect, and I think that's a big part of maybe that transition into masculinity, where you have to earn respect, and you have to do that by, hey, for example, what we spoke about earlier, getting a job, right? People see, okay, you work, like people respect the fact that you get up, you go to work, right? You can make money, like you make things happen. That's something people respect. Where if you're a man, you're just sitting down, doing nothing, no desire to do anything.
Who's gonna respect that?
How's that? That doesn't inspire me. I'm like, man, I don't want to be like that, right?
Exactly.
So you can be an example or warning, basically, right? Like, hey, I don't want to be that kind of man. You're a man who's beating up your family. You're on just going crazy, alcoholic, all this stuff. People don't want to be like that, right? So you have to be a good example to everyone, not just your family, but just the public. Like people look at you like, wow, that's a man, right? And I think that comes from knowing how to earn respect and knowing how to lose respect too, like knowing what not to do to lose respect. And when you do, because again, but you're still going to make mistakes, right? We're all going to make mistakes where it's like, man, I shouldn't have done that. But it's how you handle that, right? It's how you handle your mistakes as well, how you respond from failure, right? How you kind of get back up, like what you said about your situation with your child's mother. Yes, it was a big setback, but you bounced back. You didn't, just be like, oh, that's it, I'm done, and like just curl up and that's the end of it. You were like, listen, I messed up or whatever. Not messed up, I'm not sure what the ins and outs, but listen, I failed. Maybe it was a failure of some kind, right? But I'm not going to let that define who I am. And
Exactly.
I think that resilience, that's strength. That's what makes you a man.
And the thing with what you just said in regards to my relationship, now our relationship's better than it's ever been.
Yeah.
But that's only because of all the things that we've been through.
Exactly.
Having communication between one another.
Yeah.
Now our relationship's better than it's ever been.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. And the thing is that, going back to toxic masculinity, there's statistics, right, which says 75% of suicides are men. Only 25%, and bro, this is worldwide, 25% of suicides are women. 75% of all suicides are men. The Samaritans Helpline has also reported that Samaritans is, by the way, I'm sure you guys know what it is. I'm not sure if you have viewers outside of the UK, or listeners rather, but Samaritans is basically a suicide helpline where people call and sort of get mental health support and sort of just vent to someone while they're contemplating killing themselves. That's basically what Samaritans is, for those of you who don't know. And this helpline has reported this similar statistics that 80% of their calls are from men. Grown men, like 40-year-olds, 50-year-old men with families, right? So it's like, that's a huge difference, right? To say women aren't killing them, women do kill themselves, but nowhere as near as men. So this is a big thing which I believe is behind this, because think about calling Samaritans. Again, they've also reported that a lot of these calls are at night. So a lot of these calls are happening at 12 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. So during the middle of the night. But no, that's quiet. No one's listening. You're on your own. And that exposes a lot where men are not taught, again, to necessarily open up about their emotions or being vulnerable, right? Being like, listen, this is what I'm going through. I feel this way. Can I get help? Like that. And that goes back to the independence thing, where I think independence is what that is exactly is also important to know, because people want to look at independence and say, oh, that means just go through life alone. Don't get any help from anyone. That's not what independence means, right? And I think a lot of men look at that and say, okay, I have to do everything alone. When I'm stressed out, don't tell anyone. When I'm depressed, I won't say anything. But I think, no, you can. Part of being a man is the ability to communicate and be open and say, hey, this is how I feel. Hey, bro, this is how I feel. Hey, sis, this is how I feel. Hey, whoever it is, I want to talk about this. Or how do you feel, right? Being able to communicate about feelings. And obviously, me and you, Chance, we come from a a Christian background, and Jesus was like that, very open, honest. In the Garden of Gethsemane before he died, or was arrested rather, he was emotional. He was crying, and he got open and said, "Listen, I'm basically feeling suicidal right now." Right. So, but he's a man still for doing that, right? So, what do you think about these stats? Just do you think men are less likely to reach out for help or show vulnerability? Well, they clearly, it's not even a question. They are based on the stats. But why do you think that is? Why are women? Because you find a lot of women get a lot of help with things, right? They get support. They're encouraged to go and do things. There's a lot of charities that help women with all kinds of problems. But why is it men are in this crisis of suicide?
I'd say because we're taught from from a young age that we kind of need to deal with things internally, whether that's right or wrong. Me personally, I think there needs to be the right balance.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. So let's say you're in a relationship. Every time you're feeling stressed or you're feeling like a certain way, if you're emotional, for example, if I sat there and I'm crying all the time, I think to myself, how is my fiance or my wife gonna view me if I'm always crying in front of her? Me personally, I feel as though I'd lose some type of respect.
Yep.
And I'm not saying, that you should never be able to cry in front of your partner. You should be able to, but you don't want to be doing it too often. Trust me, because the person will lose respect for you, whether rightly or wrongly. And in regards to speaking to people, I think you should definitely speak to people, but it needs to be the right people that you're speaking to. So what you shouldn't be doing is complaining to everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm stressed about this. I'm stressed about that. Some things you do need to keep to within yourself and deal with it yourself internally. But at the same time, if it gets to that point where you're like, oh, you know what? I need to speak to someone. That's when you need to start speaking. You don't want to let it start eating you up inside. But at the same time, when you're a man, it's different when you're a man and when you're a woman. Because when you're a man, you should be able, there's certain things you should be able to cope with, I feel like. Without necessarily having to always reach out to people and speak to people about this or that.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. Because you need to be able to handle stress differently.
Yeah.
Or I think, I'll go back to what I said about self-control. You need to control that stress. Stress is not a bad thing.
It's not.
Stress is actually needed.
Yeah. Looking at it physically,
But it's how do you go about dealing with the stress that makes it
Exactly.
positive or negative. That's what I think personally. You just need to control. Just be in control of
self-control.
Everything that's going on in your life.
Yeah. And I think that's key, man, because that's a sign of emotional stability. And I think one thing that you mentioned is, again, I love how you're breaking down the emotions, because if you look at, again, boy versus man, right? If you look at the little boys, versus men, a big part of that, because a kid, we were boys, we were crying and just doing crazy stuff, right? Like without any, like a wild card, right? Because we didn't know, we didn't have the capability at the time to regulate our emotions well, and that's fine because we were boys, right? But if we're doing that now, we're grown men. I'm 29, you're 32, right? If we're here, if I came here crying, it's more so, again, I think it's okay to cry, right? Jesus cried a lot. There's many who cry, which is fine. For example, you lose a loved one, absolutely cry. Like if someone dies, close to you, cry. If you go through a hard time, you can cry. If you lose your job, you can cry. It's fine. I'll give you an example myself. I lost a job of mine. This was 2 years ago now, and it was a redundancy, situation where, I got into work one day, and they said, listen, well, we knew about it for a while. There's a possibility. And they said, listen, sorry, but your contract has not made the redundancy, right? So obviously I lost my job at the time, and it sucked. It was horrible, right? I did go home and I got a bit emotional. Right? Obviously, I went home. I was like, man, I went home on my own. I kind of had my own moment to sort of like let
I think
it out.
that's a key thing. What you just said.
Yeah.
Do it alone.
Yeah.
Sometimes
I went home
not
alone.
publicly.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. I went home alone. I got a bit emotional. It's okay to do in front of people, but like you're saying, it depends who it is. So, it depends who it is. Went home and cried a little bit, a bit emotional, but then I just listened. I just wiped my face off and listened. What am I going to do about it now?
Because imagine if you would have cried in front of everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think they would have thought of you?
Exactly. So I just said to myself, what am I going to do about this now? Right. And I made a plan, applied for jobs, let me get another. But if I just stayed there in that state forever, who knows now? I probably would have not got a job. Right. So it's more so how you handle. And I think what you're touching on, Terrence, is the term emotional intelligence, right? Where it's like you're smart about, because emotions in itself, they're important. Like we need emotions. You can't not have emotions as a man. You need to know, okay, what is anger? What is sadness? What is joy? What is this? And know how to sort of control those emotions, right? So it's like, that's important as well. But that's important to sort of know how to deal with them. And of course, mental health is a real thing. I think there are men who suffer from mental health illnesses like depression. And I'm not saying, and people with mental health problems, sometimes they have a harder time because of medical reasons to sort of deal with their emotions, which is absolutely fine. But it's okay, if you do have mental health, where do I get help? Right? It's, that's fine. Right? So I think that's a big part of it. And we're going to touch on now a bit on the role of women in shaping manhood, because I think this is huge and I think not talked about enough, because women have a lot of influence on men. As you know, men grow up, they want to date, they're trying to impress women all the time. I want a girlfriend, I want to date, I want to look good for a lot of the time for women, right? They want to, attract women to them. And men are very conscious of what women think a man is, or what women have to say about them, or just the whole idea of manhood. That could be your mom. It could be a sister. It could be, again, a romantic interest or of some kind. These have a significant view on how men view themselves. And it's massive. I think it's a big thing because women are very intuitive, right? So obviously they have an idea maybe of what a real man is and a real man isn't. They may be vocal about that and so on and so forth. But just your experiences, Terrence, what have you? I mean, what do you think about just generally, the role women have today on men, on more so the secure? Because again, we're looking at how can men be secure? Because I believe, again, insecurity in men, it's not attractive, right? It doesn't make you feel good as a man when you're insecure, right? You're like, oh no, I'm this, I'm that. It's like, it's not good, right? To be insecure. You should be secure in who you are. And I think women can make men insecure, right? If a woman says to you, oh, you look like a kid, or, you're not a man. If a woman says it to you, it hits a bit deeper, right? Than a man saying it to you, right? So I think it's like, what do you just think about the whole the impact women have had on manhood, and that, I don't know what a man is, the difference between a boy and a man. What do you think about that?
I'd say it's definitely determined somewhat by women, because when we're younger, I'd say mainly when we're younger, when we're boys, I think even like girls when they're young, they kind of know how to, I don't really want to say manipulate, but like they do certain things to young boys like from a very young age. I remember one of the times like recently, and I was in the park with my son, and he was on the swing, and then these two young girls, they came over, and they start playing with their hair, they're doing all of these things, and they're looking around, they're looking at me, and they're looking at my friend who I was with at the time.
Yeah.
And there was basically no swing to left. So they're kind of looking at me as if to say, are you going to give me that swing?
Yeah.
So it's like they're trying to look at
attention.
they're trying to do all these things, getting attention and stuff like that. But I literally said to my friend, isn't that interesting? Like the fact that they're doing that, they probably don't even know what they're doing, but they're doing it because they're females. So the point is that I was making is that even from like a very young age, we see the differences between the things that women do and the things that young boys do. Well, the things that young girls do and the things that young boys do. So that's just an example.
How have women, maybe going more specific to you in your life, how have the women impacted, how have women impacted you, the women you've known throughout your life? Could be your mother, any girlfriends, sisters, or whatever the case is. How have they impacted the man you've become and sort of your view of manhood? How has that impacted you?
I'd say the main person who's impacted me is obviously my mum.
Yeah.
As I touched on earlier, my dad, lost my dad when I was young. So that meant that my mum raised all of us pretty much. So my mum raised more or less 5 children by herself.
Yeah.
As a woman.
Yeah.
So my mum's obviously had a big impact on my life. I think that's probably where my respect for women comes from. I've got a lot of respect for females, which, to be honest, I don't feel like a lot of guys have got. I feel like a lot of men, they just see women as objects.
Yep.
And they don't really understand that that's actually a person.
Yeah, a woman brought you into the world, right?
It's not just a person. There's a lot of emotions that this person deal with.
Yeah.
So I think the main thing that men need to do in their life is actively try and understand women a bit more. And that comes from having conversations with women.
Yeah.
Being in rooms with women, even if you're the only guy who's in that room with all the women. From a very young age, I've been around women. I remember when I was younger, and I used to walk around in the park, and I'd be the only boy there with about 5, 6, 7 different women.
Yeah.
And we're just like, doing whatever, going Star City. For you guys who don't know what that is, it's a place in Nietzsche's Birmingham.
Yeah,
They've got like arcades and stuff like this, bowling, that kind of thing, shopping centre. Yeah, so we used to just do that, hang out. So I'd say for myself, and in regards to relationships, I've only really been in one serious relationship, and she's actually taught me a lot of things, and she's helped me to become a man. So without her, I wouldn't be the person that I am now, and I can actually honestly say that. So I say the 2 people for myself who's had the most of an impact on me in regards to women is my mum and the mother of my son Elijah. Yeah, so I'd say that's what I'd say.
Yeah.
So it's very important to have like strong women in your life who you can deem who you actually have like an element of respect for, because they can actually teach you a lot of things about life. And the mistake that a lot of guys make, I think, they probably don't feel like women can really teach them that much about life.
Yep.
But trust me, they can.
Yeah, of course. I think the important thing to note with women, I think what you touched on really well is the emotional lessons you can learn from women. Like how to be just emotionally just better as a man when it comes to the ability to understand emotions and use emotions the right way. Yeah. Because I think the thing is, generally speaking, right, men logical, women emotional, right? Generally speaking, we're the ones who sort of take our emotions out of a situation and think. Women feel the situation, don't think as much, right? So, but it's important, I think, to make good decisions in life and to live to be, successful in life. It's important to be able to be, again, emotionally intelligent. And I think emotional intelligence comes from a combination of being logical and also emotional together. Because if you're only logical and you don't look at any of the emotions, it's not wise, is it? But on the other end of it, if you're just emotional, like we're talking about, but there's no logic, it's not good. But you need kind of a balance. And I think men can get that balance from learning about the beings who are more the emotional ones, which are women, very well, right? But it's sort of understanding, how do I apply my logic to these emotions that you're sort of seeing in women. I think, again, your mother, again, most men, the first women that you meet, or you sort of deal with is your mom, right? That's the first woman who teaches you, and you kind of observe and see things. And then as you grow up, obviously you might have sisters too that you're growing up with. And then again, as you grow up, you then go into relationships and you start to sort of experience things in relationships. I think what I'm interested in too is just that maybe the negative, maybe to women who are listening, right? Because again, the great thing with women is that women are, I believe, much, because you hear the saying about behind a great man is a great woman, right? And women are great helpers, right? Women can really help men become great and become great in their own skin, become more confident as well. They can definitely do that. And I think it's important because I think women also have the ability to really tear men down too. And I think that's being a big part of maybe this crisis of male insecurity, men not feeling like they're men, men, again, transgenderism, they're becoming women, they're becoming gay, because they don't feel like men. And I think women have, I believe, played a role in that to a degree. So I think it's important for women just to be aware that they do have a lot of influence. They're very influential. I think that's the word, right? Women are very influential. And they can make a man or break him. They have the ability to also break him down as well. But what do you think about that? I mean, do you have you observed any maybe negative, have you observed what negative influences have you seen that you think are like just in general, right? Not going into your personal thing, but obviously just generally in the world, what have you seen as maybe a recurring problem in terms of negative influences women are having on men today, and sort of how can they change that? I mean, and how is it impacting men now in terms of them being comfortable in their own skin?
The most important thing I would say is women can manipulate. If they really want to, it's very easy for the majority of women to manipulate the majority of men.
Yeah,
because it's very easy for women to manipulate men.
Why do you think it's so easy?
I think it's so easy because if a woman looks a certain way, if a woman's attractive, if she's pretty, beautiful, whatever word you want to use to describe it.
Yeah.
And I think if majority of guys see this woman without even speaking to her, already psychologically they're gonna view this woman a certain way, just based purely off how she looks. So before she even opens her mouth, they might think to themselves, "Oh, she's a 10 out of 10." And if we go back to what you said before about having security of yourself as a man, a lot of guys are gonna be intimidated by that, whether they say it or not. Whether they believe it or not in their head, I know that to be a fact.
Yeah.
And women will pick up on this. They'll be able to tell if you're really confident within yourself or not.
Yeah.
If you go over to a woman and you start talking nonsense and you're stuttering or whatever, you think she's not gonna pick up on this.
Of course.
And then what's she gonna do?
Yeah.
She's gonna use that to her advantage. This is me just like speaking generally, but that's what I believe. And then she's gonna do certain things in order to make you. She's gonna kind of like play you in a certain way.
How can women? Again, I kind of see what you're saying about manipulation. It's sort of a way to, because you even see in the Bible, right? When you look at the first thing in the Bible, what is it? The story of Adam and Eve, and that was a form of Eve was manipulated, but then she sort of passed the manipulation on to Adam, and then
there you go,
so on and so forth. So it was like the first thing was like, that's not a good example,
and that's the first thing that happened.
Exactly. So it's almost, I think it's almost a sense of, women should use their influence, because manipulation is influence, right? It's a form of influence, which is not good, right? So it's like, instead of manipulating, you can sort of support or help or inspire your man, or a man, just men in general, a brother or your dad, or whoever it is, to feel good about themselves, to be happy. I think that's a huge thing, where there are a lot of negative ways women can be negatively influential, and it's not good, right? I think that is a big thing, is definitely manipulation. I would also say, because again, leadership, right? With men, we're designed to lead. We're designed to lead. So I think one big thing as well that I have seen is, again, this goes back to the respect, because obviously you need to earn respect as a man, but at the same time, there is that part of a woman where it's like, okay, listen, you've got to let men lead, because I think what happens all the time is men aren't, for whatever reason, women don't let the man lead. Like, they're like, I want to do it, and it's like when that happens, and again, women again can be very smart, very talented. Not saying there's not women out there who are great leaders in their field or what they're doing, but when men are involved, no, that's what we do. Yep. Like that's what we were created to do, was to lead. So,
and especially when it comes to relationships, the man has to lead. That's the only way.
Exactly. So
otherwise,
I think
it's not going to be successful.
Exactly. But the important thing as well is, remember, men are still human beings. Men make mistakes. Men fail.
Absolutely.
Men sometimes don't lead well, right? I've been there, right?
That's when the problems come.
But that's when I think women should still, again, believe in your man. Listen, I know you messed up. I know you didn't do well, but what can I do to help you be a better leader? How can I do to support you, right? To lead better and stuff. And that's what, that's the compatibility. That's why men need women and women need men. We need each other.
Yeah. And that's the key difference. Rather than throwing the man under the bus.
Yeah.
Help him.
Exactly.
That's why God created for man a helper.
Exactly. And I think if I could send a message to women or out of love, again, I think women are great. Women do great things for the world. I believe women deserve respect because, again, they have women. Being a woman is not, I would assume, is not easy. I mean, you're going through all these hormonal changes, emotions, and all this stuff. So women also have their challenges too, right? Again, I'm not a woman, so I can't go into it too much. But from what I've seen, women do have their own problems, and I think women can really help men be great, and I think women should generally just think, how can I make my dad, my brother, my boyfriend, my husband, or whatever it is, how can I make him better, not make him worse? How can I make him and not break him down, right? Because I've seen men, again, break down because of things a woman has done, right? So, again, I think that is a big thing in masculinity. Women can make men be better, right? Women can make a man be great. Look at LeBron James. LeBron James, as you all know, arguably probably the top 5 greatest basketball players of all time. But he said something really powerful that hit me. He said he's the car and his wife is the engine, right? That's what he said. He said, my wife, who's been with since she was 18, so 30 years, he would not be LeBron James. That doesn't happen. So I'm like, wow, it's like, yeah, you can have a man can be like a nice car, but the car needs to go, right?
Without that engine, the car's not going.
And he said exactly, the wife is the engine, and that engine can break a car or it can make a car go.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think women, and it's important because without an engine, the car is just there, right? It can't do anything, right? It can look nice, it can just be parked there, but without that engine, you can't see the power of the car, right? So I think that's what, when LeBron said that, I'm like, wow, that's really sums up what we're saying, is that men do need an engine. They need that push, that thrust, right? To kind of go into a hyperdrive, right? So, and be great. And I think it's the same. You look at any president, you look at anyone, again, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, you look at a lot of these great men who've done great things in this life. They've had a woman who's behind them, who's really helped them get to greatness, right? So I think that's also very key as well. Just to sort of go towards our ending here. You and I are black men, right? And I think what I wanted to touch on very briefly was, do you think as a black man, your experience of manhood is shaped differently compared to other men, especially with the added layers of race and culture? What are some of the unique challenges that black men face when transitioning into manhood? And how can we work through these challenges in a healthy way? Do you think there's an element of, is black masculinity, is that maybe a sub layer to masculinity in general? Is that different? Because I feel like with black men, it might be different because again we have the elements of okay, we spoke about this last time about maybe hip hop culture. Maybe some people believe that it's harder in life as a black man versus being a white man, for example, or a Chinese man or an Indian man. The opportunities you get as a black man, maybe it's harder to succeed in life as a black man, especially if you're a black man in a predominantly maybe white country, whatever the case is. So black men have to work twice or 3, 4, 5 times as hard to get where someone else would get to with one step. What do you think about that? Because I think, again, in today's generation, I think the world has evolved. I think the world, you now see a lot of black men who are in, for example, doing what we're doing, podcast, they're in the creative industry, making movies, acting, singing, rapping, athletes. You see it now where black men are kind of now in the mainstream and doing very well, winning awards. Obama, again, black presidents now, black politicians. Kamala Harris, black politician. Not that she's a man, but, for example, someone who succeeded. Do you think that? Because I think if there's anything I can say, maybe that maybe is a bit different is, okay, do you have to work harder as a black man in today's life? Is it harder? Do you have to have a thicker skin to say, listen, I'm not white, I'm black, so I gotta get my act together a bit quicker and a bit. Do you agree with that, or do you think that's an excuse, or not an excuse, but you think that's maybe unfair to the other races, or do you think that's putting too much pressure on black men or being unrealistic with them, or is that just tough love to say, listen, yeah, the world is racist, and I heard someone told me once it's a white man's world, so you kind of have to fight against the grain, right, to even get there. So what do you think about that? Because we've only had one black president ever, only one ever, only one. I believe it's one. Even if you look at the film industry, I believe it's only 1 or 2 directors have actually won an Oscar who've been black. Jordan Peele didn't win Jordan Peele was one of them. Daniel Kaluuya won Best Actor at the Oscars. Obviously, Denzel Washington's a successful black actor. Will Smith. And we know all the rappers. They're all generally successful, but there's still that stigma of, listen. I had a guy in my workplace tell me, listen, us black people, he said in his own words, you have to pattern up.
We do.
But do you think life as a black man, all the things we've said today, going to work, working hard, is that more urgent with black men? Like, listen, you have to do it and do it even harder than everyone else. Do you agree with that? And if so, why or why not?
The main thing I'd say in regards to like jobs and stuff like that, you mentioned earlier, like athletes, hip hop, artists. I think it's easy for us to become rappers, R&B singers, athletes, and stuff like that. That's the easy work. But to become politicians and lawyers and doctors, that's the difference between being black and I'd say between being a different, like another race.
Yeah.
It's easy for us because we're very athletic as black people. A lot of black people can sing, we can dance, we can do all of that stuff. But when we start to try and come away from that and go into other fields, I feel like that's maybe where, I'm not going to say we're held back, but that's where it becomes harder for us to try and like go into other types of industries. Like there's a lot of black actors, like you mentioned, Denzel Washington, Samuel L. Jackson, Will Smith, these types of people, Michael B. Jordan as well. Like most recently, he's very popular. But to go into other fields, that's where we, as a black community, we need to start doing more. And we need to start coming away from all these different other things, because as a
do you think, because obviously again I get what you're saying about maybe it's now more common to see now. You have movies like Black Panther. You have all these films now, even 12 Years a Slave, where it's black films, right? These are like Tyler Perry. You know, this is black content which people enjoy. People are watching it. People are going. They said Black Panther made $1 billion box office, right? Like, wow, like that was a big. I didn't think the film was amazing. I thought the film was okay. It was a good film, but it wasn't the best film I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
but
it was okay.
It was a cultural success, right? Same with Obama. You know, of course, there were things that I think he did politically that I'm like, I don't agree with that. But because he was black, it's like you still inspired me. I'm like, wow. But anyone, I was like, man, I can be great too, right? So I think when it comes down to like jobs and you know, opportunities, it's an interesting one because I think maybe it's the generation where maybe the old generation was like, listen, black people can't get anything. Like you cannot, like people will not hire you because you're black. Like there's no way. It doesn't matter how talented you are. Like you have no chance. Just do like that's literally the generation, maybe the previous one.
Yeah. But
me
our
personally,
personally, I feel like that's all changed now.
It has changed. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what it is? And a lot of black people, if they're listening to what I'm about to say right now, they probably won't like it, but I'm going to say it anyway because we need to get out of this victim mentality.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Forget the victim mentality because if you want to achieve something, you definitely can do it. Whether it's going to be harder or not, if you put your mind to something,
you can do it.
You can do it. There's nothing that's going to stop you apart from yourself. So we need to get rid of this negative self-talk and blaming other people and just put the work in, and then trust me, you'll see that what I'm saying right now is true.
Yeah.
You know, because in the past, I think maybe we could have used that as a reason,
but
now that no longer no longer applies anymore now.
The world has opened up now a lot. You find again, we're doing a podcast. We're both black. Like before, maybe, I don't know, podcast blew up or just the media industry, because this is part of media, what we're doing. You could say that it wasn't very black. There was no black people. Black people, if they were involved, it was more like behind the scenes. They were not at the front. It was more like just doing kind of the back end work. But now I love what you're saying about the victim mentality, because someone like Obama, for example, he could have said, "Oh, I'm black. I'm not going to win the election," but he just pushed through. Look, he won the election. Martin Luther King Jr. did that speech. Malcolm X inflicted. They could have said we're black. Wow, we can't change the world, but they did.
So many examples.
So I think it's definitely Denzel Washington was told when he was, I believe, when he was 10, 11 years old. Literally, he wrote in a note that I'm going to be the greatest actor who's ever lived. Puts on his desk. All the kids and teachers laugh at him like, but he's like, because it was black. They're like, hey, we can't do it. But
Muhammad Ali, look at him as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I think LeBron was another good example. So it's more about and I think that's just not with black people. That's in general. That's with men in general. Where it's like, you can either make an excuse, or you can
work hard,
make an impact. Don't make excuses. Just go for it. And life in general is not. And I think in a nutshell, that is what a man is being about, right? It's like being able to rise above challenges, not crumble under challenges, right? I think that's not. Again, if you want to lead a family, if you want to lead yourself, if you want to be successful, you have to be able to deal with challenges. Like no pain, no gain, right? You have to push through.
Because there's always going to be challenges in life.
And I think that's strength. That is what strength is. And I think that is what manhood is about. It's about strength, because it's about, challenges. And like you're saying about the mind, the gym is great for training, because the gym, what are you doing? You're challenging you're forcing your body to lift something. Or you're pushing yourself. And you're like, listen, your arm's telling you, stop. That's enough, right?
But your mind is telling you keep going
until the arm gives up. And that takes a level of perseverance. And I think that can be applied to life in general, right? And I think linking back to what you're saying about the gym, it sort of links with all the other, not even gym, just physical training, whatever the case is. It links well to the whole aspect of the mindset. Because once your mind is strong, everything else, your marriage, your your kids, your business, everything else goes well. Yeah. Everything else is strong, right?
Everything else becomes easy.
Exactly.
Once you got your mind where it needs to be.
Once you're confident inside, everything else falls into place. So it all starts from there. And again, that does come from a place of, again, being a man is about being strong, pushing through life, and wanting to get through life. And again, stemming back to the original points you made about, getting a job, takes mental strength to get. Takes mental strength to be like, listen, I want to study. If you need to study to get the job you want, I'm going to apply for jobs. I'm going to start a business, and just, if I can't find a job, let me start making money somehow. Whether it's a corner shop, whatever it is, you just start getting into the mindset of, listen, I need to make and create something, and that's what men do, and that is what a man is, and that all comes from strength. And I think we've defined very well what strength is, because I think strength can be viewed as it's just weights. Like, no, it's not just that. It's more than that, right? So,
I think a lot of your strength comes from mental strength,
mental toughness, exactly, toughness, fortitude, the ability to push through. And again, once you're in control of your mind, like you were saying earlier, once you're in control of your mind and your thoughts, and you can control everything else with ease, right? And I think that's what a man is. That is what an alpha man, or you can say a dominant. That is dominance. Dominance is not beating someone up. Dominance is not getting angry all the time. It's not, because again, I think that term of, because you hear people talking about man's man, right? They've heard that word man's man, or whatever it is, or an alpha male. People just think, oh, The Rock, or just someone who's beating everyone up, like Brock Lesnar, like that's what they think. Oh, that's that, but it's not really that, right? That's not what it is. And I think a lot of men now, the problem is, are striving to be something, or they're finding they're finding their security in, oh gosh, I've got a temper, I'm a man now, and they think that all of a sudden they think that makes them tough or strong.
I'd say having a temper makes you much less of a man.
Yeah.
So it's actually the opposite of what a lot of people think.
Exactly. So it's interesting how everything's reversed. But Terrence, honestly, I think you've made it very clear. I think one thing I'd like to say to the viewers is that, listen, definitely look at all the resources today. I think there's a lot of great examples in men. And all me and Terrence are trying to do today is try to make it clear of what a man is. Because I do believe, again, it is complicated because we've complicated ourselves. Society has complicated it. To a degree, women have complicated it too, like we mentioned. The media, pop culture, music, films, everything. They've complicated what a man actually is. And what strength is and what strength is not. But again, we believe that strength comes from the mind, the ability to rise above challenges, the ability to push yourself, the ability to get a grip and own your life and push through. And that's what a man is. And it sounds simple because it is simple.
It's a lot of hard work.
It's simple.
But it's simple.
It is simple, but it is simple. And I think the most important thing is not to overcomplicate it. And I think now the world is very complicated with all this change of transgenderism. I was reading an article the other day where they were saying that they're now trying to find technology to change your race. So it's literally like, that in itself is like, if you're born a man, or you're born a black man, or whatever it is, white, Asian, that's who you are. You should be happy with that. And I think now the generation is very insecure. The men are insecure more than ever before. Although they may appear confident on the outside, like you're mentioning yesterday about just now about what was it about men approaching women and being insecure inside, right? Like, yeah, it's a very insecure generation we live in, and it's showing. I think the transgenderism is a big thing that shows the deep insecurities. That's a big thing, right? That people are not even secure to say, I'm a woman or I'm a man, and I'm going to stay like this. I don't want to be a man anymore. I want to be a woman.
A lot of people will say that's a psychological thing, like with men thinking that they're women, or women thinking that they're men.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what I think about that, but I think it's a touchy subject.
It is a touchy subject.
When we speak about transgender, and when we speak about, gay people, lesbians and stuff like that. But I know my views on it. But I think we're going to Or publicly.
Again, yes, we're again we just speak. We want people to know, sort of, just what we think, what our views are, what our beliefs are, and what could be the causes behind certain things, which it can be. It can be. So, again, guys, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate your time, and we just appreciate having you, and we appreciate the following and the audience and all your support. We really appreciate it. Again, me and Terrence will be back. Again, this is our series on sort of looking into manhood and masculinity. And we'll be back with a few more episodes to sort of wrap up the series we're doing. And again, please comment, please subscribe, please let us know what you think. Again, any disagreements, put them in the comment section. We're happy to talk to you. But yeah, again, we really feel that men do need to feel secure and comfortable in their own skin. And again, our title, Be It TV, is just to help you become the best version of yourself possible. And if you are a man out there who needs to hear this, we hope that you felt more secure and more assured of who you are and the great man that you're destined to be. So again, guys, thank you so much for again tuning in. We will speak to you next time. Until then, take care and have a great day. Bye for now.